The topic of today's event is apprenticeships, how they can support talent development and acquisition. I want to start by asking everyone to mute their phone when you're not speaking. I also want to mention that which we're doing lots of right now, have sponsorship opportunities available. All of our events can be found on our website at aztechcouncil.org. But if you're interested in being a sponsor, you can contact Lee Goldstein, and his email is events@aztechcouncil.org, and he can provide further information. So for today's event, if you have questions, please put them in the chat area, and the moderators will pull questions from there. You can also raise your hand, and one of the moderators will call on you and ask you to unmute your phone. So I want to start by thanking our moderators today, Kathleen Barton and Molly Castellazzo. They are the co-chairs of the Education Committee, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about their backgrounds. Kathleen Barton is the CEO of Kathleen Barton Consulting, and provides consulting and program management on workforce and economic development, specializing in business education partnerships. Her current projects include developing a cybersecurity talent supply with the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation. They have a cybersecurity collaborative in partnership with the Arizona Tech Council and the Center for the Future of Arizona's Pathways to Prosperity Network. Recent projects that she's done have included the implementation of Apprenti. It's a high-tech apprenticeship program for IT and cybersecurity talent developed by our sister organization, the Washington Technology Industry Association. It's a pilot high school apprenticeship program with the Phoenix Coding Academy and Koldowski Security. Kathleen's work in early talent development with the Center for the Future of Arizona's Pathways to Prosperity Network includes advancing early college and career high school as a strategy to improve graduation rates, support post-secondary education goals, and align education to high skill, high wage, high demand industry needs, just the type we have in the tech industry. So prior to her consulting career, Kathleen spent over 3 years at Intel in roles including human resource management and organizational, as well as education manager for national and statewide policy and program initiatives. And as I said, Kathleen is our co-chair for Workforce Development Education. Molly Castellazzo, we got to know maybe, 9 years ago now, 8, 9 years ago, when she was involved with a project that we did on the workforce with the Seidman Research Institute. And Molly has been connected with us ever since. And Molly is the CEO and Chief Content Strategist at Castellazzo Content, which is a B2B demand generation and sales acceleration agency. And since 2008, Molly and her team have helped drive hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for clients, actually 69 million in a single year, with content that engages prospective buyers. For her team, Molly is a fearless leader, coach, guide, and editor-in-chief. For clients, she works her magic as both a brilliant brainstormer and effective executor. For the technology and marketing community, Molly serves in various leadership roles, including a committee co-chair for the Arizona Tech Council and past president of the Business Marketing Association. In addition, Molly loves to take the stage and speak about strategic content creation, including as an adjunct professor at the W.P. Carey School of Business at ASU. So without further ado, I will introduce our two moderators, Kathleen Barton and Molly Castellazzo. All on you guys now.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome, everyone. We are delighted to have you join us today to learn about some of the newest and most exciting apprenticeships in Arizona. With unprecedented bipartisan support across two administrations, the U.S. Department of Labor and other sources are providing funds to expand and innovate apprenticeships, especially in high tech, and use that as a means to, number one, bridge the skills gap, and also to diversify the talent pool with more women, people of color, and transitioning service members and their families. And we are hoping that you're going to be as interested and excited about the models that you hear about today, and perhaps find something that will support your talent development needs for your organization and your enterprise. As you saw in some of the promotional materials, we're having 3 presentations today, each about 15 minutes. And we're going to then go through all of them and then do Q&A at the end. So we should have a half hour for Q&A if we need it. And with that, I would like to introduce our first presenter, Jennifer Mellor, who is the Chief Innovation Officer for the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. Jennifer, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, thank you, Kathleen, for that nice introduction. And I'm just getting my screen here to share, so hopefully you all can see this in a moment. And we can get going. Can you see everything okay?
Yes, all good, Jen.
Great.
Looks great.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for having me this afternoon. As Steve mentioned in his opening remarks, the Tech Council has been a great partner of the Chamber, specifically with our cybersecurity collaborative, and we are really looking forward to continuing that partnership and continuing to strengthen that partnership. So this morning, I want to talk a little bit about some of the work we're doing in our cybersecurity collaborative, but obviously with a focus on both apprenticeships and just kind of broader tech talent development. So not surprising, I'm sure, to any of you, we've continued to see a challenge as it relates to the workforce, and companies that are expressing concerns with their ability to grow and prosper and compete in the current marketplace, specifically in the workforce space. And that has obviously shifted over the last couple of months. But I don't anticipate that will shift in the long term, and we can talk a little bit about that towards the end. So as many of you know, we launched a cybersecurity collaborative back in 2015, so quite some time ago, specifically focused on cybersecurity. And it really came out around this concept that there are over 12,000 job openings in Arizona. And as many of you know, through that process, we launched a website, thanks to Molly and the team at Castellazzo, azcybertalent.com, that actually talked about the importance of cybersecurity talent and was kind of a one-stop shop, or is the one-stop shop for employers, education providers, and also job seekers to really elevate cyber talent here in Arizona. Early in our process, we also engaged with a number of employers to help really define the roles of cybersecurity talent at the entry, mid, and senior levels, and also engaged our education community to better align the programs that they were offering to meet our employers' needs. And then last but not least, we have been working and have successfully piloted some work with Apprenti, which is really what I want to focus on today. And Apprenti is a model, an apprenticeship model from the Washington Tech Industry Association, focused on mid-level IT talent. So again, not surprising, but we're continuing to see an increasing number of IT and cybersecurity related job postings, which really makes it critical for companies to start looking at different sources and non-traditional sources for talent. In our discussions with employers, it was interesting. Early on, we heard more and more employers that were saying, no, I want a 4-year pedigreed bachelor's degree student for my tech roles. And I will say that that has really drastically evolved over the last several years as we've continued to do this work with companies that are much more willing to look at different diverse talent pools. And I think Apprenti is another just great resource for a diverse talent solution. So just a little bit of information on the Apprenti model. They, again, were developed as a program that was designed to target a new applicant pool. Those that may have the interest and the aptitude to be successful in IT-related roles, but maybe didn't have the technical skills or experience to make them a viable candidate for those types of positions. And I say maybe because what they found is actually many of the candidates did actually have some sort of educational background in an IT related program, but had never had, again, that experience to supplement it. And so Apprenti, they created this assessment that was based on both math proficiency as well as problem-solving skills to identify folks that had the wherewithal to be successful in these roles. And then they designed an apprenticeship model where their applicants and candidates could actually obtain the technical skills through a training, a compact training, and then continue to develop and refine those skills through on-the-job training. So Apprenti has been in place for 3 years now. They have served over 750 apprentices nationwide. And what I really, again, like about this program is it provides access to a much more diverse talent pool. We know that women are underrepresented in the IT and cybersecurity industry. So you'll see here, they've been very successful in targeting women to enter these types of roles and apprenticeships. Additionally, they've been very successful in bringing in people of color. And then they've also had a lot of great success in converting veterans into IT-related roles. And then one thing I will just note is oftentimes I think we think of apprenticeships as entry-level positions focused on a younger demographic. And so I think one thing that's very interesting is that the average age of the candidates going through Apprenti are actually 33. So typically the older individuals have a little bit more diverse background and experience with communication skills, a lot of the soft skills that our employers are also finding very, very difficult to find. So as I mentioned, Apprenti was actually started in Seattle with the Washington Technology Industry Association. They've had great success with a lot of national companies. They've worked with Microsoft, Avvo, a lot of really high-end technology companies, and continue to have increased success with those clients. We too, in Arizona, have been successful in piloting a program. And we actually launched, thanks to Kathleen's efforts and her dedication to the work, we launched a successful pilot with Salt River Project. And as many of you know, they were actually shutting down the Navajo Generation Station up in Page. And they actually took coal plant workers and transitioned 10 of those individuals into IT business analysts using the Apprenti model. So we were able to locate a training provider up on the Navajo reservation. And then those individuals went through the necessary technical training. Once they completed that training, they were moved down to the Phoenix market, and they are in the approaching the end of their apprenticeship. So they're about 3/4 of the way through their apprenticeship and have been very, very successful in converting, again, from coal plant workers into IT business analyst roles. We, as I mentioned, use the IT business analyst function up with SRP. That's what they were interested in converting folks to. We are also in the process of launching a cybersecurity analyst cohort along with PayPal. We're looking for folks that are interested in, again, these non-traditional sources for talent. So if you're interested in joining as an apprentice pilot company, we would love to have you on board. Again, we're testing this out in the cybersecurity role this summer, but we'll also be expanding to more broad IT types of roles moving forward. And you can see some of the different types of certifications that have already been in place through Apprenti nationally. And I will just also mention that these are registered apprenticeships, so they're nationally recognized. And Apprenti does a lot of the legwork as far as managing the registration process that can often be very cumbersome for employers that are looking at apprenticeship models. So just switching gears really quickly here, we at the foundation are also looking at ways that we can continue to pull that thread back into K-12 education. Again, creating more career awareness and career development throughout the high school process. So we actually are piloting some work currently with the academies at South Mountain, and we'll be expanding this work to the Phoenix Coding Academy and other schools within the Phoenix Union High School District portfolio in the next couple of months. But we're actually working to have the business community play a much stronger role in the high school continuum. And I know many of you have good relationships with the school. What we find is a lot of times those relationships are very ad hoc and one-off based on a relationship you may have with a teacher. We are working to formalize that strategy. So if you're interested or your company is interested in going and being a guest speaker in the classroom or offering a job shadowing tour, offering a tour of your company, those are opportunities that we could provide to a number of schools across Maricopa County. And we are actually in the process right now, as I mentioned, we're piloting some work with the academies at South Mountain, and we are developing a summer internship program as we speak. Obviously, this will be in a virtual format, but we're looking for companies that would be willing to test out some summer interns in the June-July timeframe before these individuals go back for their senior year. So it would be students that are in their finishing up their junior year and moving into their senior year. And we know this is a critically important time, especially given our current environment, making sure that students have that transition over the summer months and continue to see those career development experiences. So part of our process here is to make sure that we're not just engaging businesses within these classrooms, but that we're also looking at the teaching and learning model so that when you go into a classroom, you feel supported by those teachers and that those teachers know how to interact with and have business professionals within their classroom. We are also looking at the full school experience so that in their freshman year, students have the ability to do much more career exploration. We're also working with a national assessment tool that assesses students based on their interest and their aptitude for different types of careers. And a lot of schools currently offer that assessment right now, but what that assessment is missing is the aptitude piece. So it's most assessments are looking at students' ability or what their interests look like. But again, the tool that we're looking at has, again, that added assessment tool to see what they have the competencies for. So we're really excited to get this work off the ground. Would love to have anybody that's interested in partnering with us. We actually have a really great candidate down at South Mountain that is looking for a summer internship. So again, if you're interested, would love to have you on board. And I do also want to just highlight one of the employers that's been heavily engaged in our cybersecurity collaborative, and that's Kidelsky. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Kidelsky, but they are a Swiss company, very familiar with the apprenticeship model. They actually came to Arizona a few years ago and are a leader in digital security. And they've been partnering with Phoenix Coding Academy as well, where they've offered a high school internship throughout the actual school year. For the last year, they had 2 students that were going through their junior year this year and have had really great success. They're offering an internship that's about 16 hours a week. They do a little bit more during breaks and during the summer months. And they're actually giving increases to those students as they continue to progress throughout their internship. These are obviously paid internships with part-time benefits. And they also give all those students access to company events, really embedding those students into the culture of their organization. One of the things that we often hear from employers when they're considering someone in an IT or cybersecurity type of internship is concerns around having them in a secured environment. And Kidelsky has done a really good job with this. They're not engaging these students in their SOC. They're actually having them participate in customer service, help desk types of roles where they're really learning about the company, and then they're figuring out different opportunities and how to operate within those types of environments. So they're continuing to do ongoing outreach and awareness. They are planning for a second cohort in the fall of 2020, and they also are always willing to share some of these best practices with other employers if you're interested in connecting with them. So I will go ahead and just close here. We are in the process of launching a new IT collaborative as well to complement and support some of the work that's already been done with our cybersecurity collaborative. And then I also want to make sure I introduce Nan Pham, who is our new workforce development manager focused on IT and cybersecurity. She just joined our team yesterday, and this is her second interactive webinar. So glad to have her on the team. And she will be leading some of these efforts moving forward and will be dedicated to this role. So we're excited to have her on board. And also just want to thank Kathleen for all the work that she's done to get us to this point with a lot of our work. So again, I will stop there, let the other folks present, and happy to answer any questions.
Jennifer, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Great presentation. And as I said, we'll wait till we finish all 3 of ours to do Q&A, but please type them into the chat as they come up for you. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Raghu Santanam, who is the professor and chair of the Department of Information Systems at the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University. Raghu?
Thanks, Kathleen. Trying to share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk here about the apprenticeship program that we are starting at ASU in the W.P. Carey School of Business. As Kathleen mentioned, Raghu Santanam, the department chair and professor of information systems at ASU. I've been here for the last 20 plus years, and in our department we offer degree programs in information systems, business data analytics at both the undergraduate level. Having a little bit of difficulty. Okay, there you go. So in terms of what we have to offer, this is a Department of Labor grant that we just received in March of this year. that targets the development of digital workforce. And I'll get into details of some of the occupations we cover, but essentially what we are creating at ASU is a public-private partnership to, as Jennifer mentioned, there's over 12,000 jobs in Arizona today in IT, and there is the talent shortage. And how do we, fill that skill gap in the IT workforce? That's really what we are after in this program. The program targets both our current ASU students and as well as new learners, which would include your high school graduates and as well as community college graduates here. But in terms of ASU students, you do have, you get access to a large talent pool. As you know, ASU has a large number of students, and especially in the STEM domain that is spread across the business school, the engineering school, as well as a new college out in the West. And more importantly, most of our programs are online. And what that enables is, in terms of an apprenticeship opportunity, is that the apprentices can do the online courses at their time, and it gives a lot more flexibility in terms of how to operate the apprenticeship programs. In the 4-year time frame of the grant, we expect to train about 1,680 apprentices. And the intent, although is primarily focused on Arizona, we do not rule out offering apprenticeship opportunities across the nation. This is especially because of some of the tech employers in Arizona here today are also spread out nationally, and many times their talent requirements extend beyond Arizona, and we can do that in ASU because of our online degree programs and our outreach efforts. So in terms of the program personnel, I'm the primary investigator, and that's usually not the term the Department of Labor uses. It's more sort of like the executive director for the program. I have with me on the team Ryan Owens, who is the director of continuing education in the WP Carey School. There is institutional level support as well. Grace Sullivan, who is the VP for corporate engagement and strategic partnerships and knowledge enterprise development, is a person on this team as well. And we also have a number of faculty mentors who have years of experience in the industry. For example, Chris has been a CIO before he joined us, Chris Sala. Colin Salmon was a data science director at a large company before joining ASU. So that sort of mentorship for the apprentices as well as for the employers is really helpful in apprenticeship programs. And we will also have a program manager that hopefully will start in June of this year. As I said, our focus is on IT occupations, and the IT occupations run the whole gamut. And I've here some numbers that come from at the national level, how many sort of openings are there, and as well as what's the growth projection for these jobs. And the Arizona numbers, we had looked at it, and it's fairly similar, in terms of what the trends are. And the important thing is that, as Jennifer mentioned, you have to extend beyond this sort of focus on 4-year degree programs, and it should expand the talent pool into the high schools as well as the community college levels. And the slight difference in our approach is that we want to provide a pathway for these new entrants to the IT occupations to eventually a 4-year degree and even possibly a master's degree. And that's coming from a higher education institute. That makes it easier for us to achieve, and that's the design of the program that we are putting together. And if you're unfamiliar with what an apprenticeship is about, there are really 3 core components to it. The most important, of course, is this on-the-job learning of competencies the apprentices obtain at the place of employment. But there is also the classroom instruction that an institution like ASU can provide. And at the end of that apprenticeship program, the way the two, classroom and the on-the-job learning, work together is that it leads to an industry recognized credential. So essentially, there has to be a paid work component for an apprenticeship. There has to be a work-based learning and mentorship. There has to be an educational and instructional component, and which is where we come into the picture. And the 1 year or 2 year apprenticeship should eventually lead to something that's an industry recognized credential. It could be certificates, it could be a degree program, and it allows one to be attractive to other employers, not just the one where they gain the apprenticeship. Lots of our recruiters in ASU come to hire our students for internships. So a common question I receive from our employer partners when we talk about apprenticeships is, what's the difference between an apprenticeship and an internship? So typically, the one is about the length of the time. Internships are usually, they happen in the summer. They're about 3 months duration, as opposed to an apprenticeship that's actually a 1 year minimum duration, but it can be as long as 3 years, depending on what you're, getting a credential in. In terms of the structure, there is a lot more structure to the apprenticeship. As I said, there is a clear definition of what are the competencies an apprentice is supposed to obtain, what are the classroom trainings that complement the competencies that are being acquired. As opposed to an internship, many times there isn't a structure, or it's a some sort of a project that an intern does. It is not as closely monitored in terms of what was that end goal of that internship over that 3 or 1 month period. We also require some mentorship at the apprenticeship level. That's usually the supervisor that provides it. So it may not be that big a difference, but there is a much more sort of careful consideration of the type of professional development an apprentice should obtain over that 1 year period. All apprentices are paid, and it can be a full-time position, but it can also be a part-time position as well. But there is an expectation of a minimum number of hours that they are on the job during that apprenticeship period. And of course, in the end, there is a credential that they would obtain. And one of the distinctions, at least in our program, is that our intent is to provide some sort of a college credit that can eventually be applied to a degree program during the career progression of the apprentice. So in terms of the program highlights in our program, and I will describe this in more detail, there are 4 distinct pathways that we have created that allows for both non-degree and for-degree educational activities associated with the apprenticeship. It also allows for specializations. So, and I'll talk a little bit about the specializations later on this slide. The second aspect that's a highlight of our program is that we are willing to provide a custom cohort-based model for large employers, especially, I've heard from quite a few of the tech consulting and large employers that they would like to hire, a cohort of 25 to 30 apprentices and put them through the program. And that's something that we can do. And we have done in the past in my department, a train to hire program for Cognizant Consulting that was similar to this, where we had 50 plus students go for a training that was over about 10 to 12 weeks prior to being hired into Cognizant Consulting. In our plans for curriculum delivery as part of the apprenticeship, they're all online. They can utilize modularized content that's available from our existing programs, but also we do have some grant support to create new certificates and new programs that may be very specifically needed within the Arizona context. So in terms of specializations, as I mentioned, cybersecurity is one of the areas that we have focused on here as well. But we have also expanded it to include data analytics and the application of AI, machine learning, and sort of those skills that are coming into demand a lot more in today's environment. We have also specifically offered to create internships or create apprenticeships in the cloud computing and the IoT areas. And especially with our students, whether it's in the new college, or the business school, or in the engineering schools in the poly campus, we already have quite a bit of curriculum materials in these emerging areas. So again, so if your workforce needs are evolving to include a lot more of these emerging technologies, then a really good way to give these students who are already in this domain an experiential learning opportunity through apprenticeships, and then allowing them to acquire the industry required credentials as part of that training that they obtain in your organization can be helpful. But most importantly, you might be able to grow your own talent pool as you observe them closely over that 1 or 2 year duration that these students are working with you as part of the apprenticeship. So as I mentioned earlier, there is this 4 pathway options that we have proposed, and we will be implementing this in the program. And very briefly, think about it this way, that the pathway option 1 is for someone who is a high school graduate, who has just graduated from high school and is probably not ready or not interested in going to a university or a community college, but is interested in the IT domain. And that's the type of a candidate that would be very well suited for this pathway option 1, where we can create the non-credit options in terms of the training requirements. You could think of, for example, the Google's IT support certificate as a case in context. But then they could slowly graduate towards the other pathways within our program. So for example, the pathway option 2 could be very well suited for, say, an associate's degree holder from a community college, or someone who is already employed but maybe underemployed and is aspiring to shift to an IT career. So that's where we would like to offer non-degree and a part credit type of a program, where you would do a sequence of 3 to 5 courses that are very specific towards the IT occupation you're getting towards. So let's say, for example, a programmer analyst. So you do those 3 to 5 courses that are geared towards that, but also you're getting on-the-job learning as a programmer analyst apprentice in an employer's location. The third and the 4th options are aligned with our undergraduate and graduate degree programs offered at ASU. So this means now you have access to the talent pool within ASU, but in a way where even before they graduate, they're able to work with you for 1 to 2 years as they are earning their credit towards their degree program. And they could be classified as an apprentice under this and work with you and obtain the training that is required for their eventual career in the IT domain. And this is also an option for your current employees. So I've heard from a lot of our employer partners that they do hire quite a few associate's degree holders, but they would like to have them a college degree. And this is a way for them to provide that kind of a pathway for them to do that. And in some cases, you have fresh undergraduates who you have hired, but you want to graduate them towards more, at the higher end, and that's where graduate degree programs, and especially in the data science domain, that would be really, really attractive for some of the current employees. I'm going to skip on this, and if there are any questions about what the real, design of an apprenticeship looks like, and I can talk to this later on. And I would like to say, currently we have quite a few employers who have signed support letters for us. And by the way, thanks to Arizona Tech Council and Steve, they were one of the earliest partners in terms of giving us support in the grant application. We are continuing to talk to other employers. Our plan is to at least have about 30 plus employer partners in this apprenticeship program. As you can see, about 1,680 apprentices over 4 years is not something that you can achieve with a really small group of employers. So we do need a mix of large and small employers in this mix, but we also have coalition partners that we would need. So we've talked to Center for the Future of Arizona, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, Arizona at Work, that's the Workforce Innovation Center here, and as well as the Arizona Department of Economic Security, Arizona Commerce Authority. So there's quite a few partners that have to come together to get a program like this to go. So again, we are willing to work with you in defining those specific needs that you have in terms of your talent needs, and we can figure out how we can do that over the next few months. So thank you once again for listening to me, and I'll hand over my microphone to Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Raghu. Appreciate all of your sharing with us. We're now at our third presentation.
We lost your voice, Kathleen. You froze. Hopefully she comes back, because this has happened in a call with her before. So just give it a minute. Molly, are you in a position to introduce the next presenter, or?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. I'm not nearly as gonna do as good of a job as Kathleen would, but I certainly can introduce the next presenter, Denise Kingman and Ian Roark from Pima Community College. And if you all are ready, please go ahead and take it away. And if you want to do a more robust introduction, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Good afternoon. This is Ian. Can you hear me? Just need a cue from somebody that I can be heard.
You can be heard.
Excellent. So Denise and I are working on the same.
Kathleen is back, by the way.
She's
Kathleen,
going
do you want to do a proper introduction? We see you're back.
Steve, I apologize. I moved location so I wouldn't lose a connection, and somehow I did. So Molly, thank you for introducing Ian and Denise. And Ian, take it away.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks again, everybody. And so Denise and I are working off of the same slide deck, and so she's going to be sharing that slide deck now. And I will just cover the first set of slides. But while Denise is pulling that up, just really wanted to first take the opportunity to thank Steve, Kathleen, and the entire Arizona Technology Council team. We are proud members of the AZ Tech Council and very proud of our sponsorship level with you as well. You continue to be advocates for business and economic development growth across all of Arizona and including in Southern Arizona. And we are just proud to partner with your team, including Jeff Sales. I don't know if he's on this call or not too. But thanks again, Steve, for all you do. And while also that's coming up, just wanted to give kudos to a couple of other partners I saw just scrolling through the attendees real quick. And so that includes our proud partners at Pima JTED with Superintendent Kathy Prather. Proud to work with them, as well as a couple of folks from Arizona at Work, Pima County, and also noticed some partners from Sun Corridor Inc. So thank you, all of you, our proud partners in these apprenticeship efforts in moving forward. And Denise, do we have that slide pulled up?
I'm sharing. Is it not showing?
It is not.
Ian, are you able to pull it up on your end? It worked when we did it earlier.
Sure, let me just find it.
Are we seeing it yet?
No, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my screen?
No. Denise, you want to send it? I can try it from this end.
About that.
Yes, you're good. You're
Yeah.
up.
All right, so we'll go ahead.
Went away.
So we'll go ahead and I'll advance the slides, Denise, at your direction. So for the first couple of slides, Denise serves as our Director of Employment Engagement and Career Services, and proud to have her on our team. My role at the college is I serve as our Vice President of Workforce Development and Strategic Partnerships.
By the way, Ian, it went away. It came up and it went away.
What about now?
Not up, but it was up momentarily.
It's interesting.
Mhm.
Denise, or Ian, oh, there you are. You're up again. Okay, don't move.
Being very still. Okay, can you see that now?
Yes, we're good.
All right, try to, like in an airline flight, make it up on the back end here. So I'll try to go through this really quickly. I wanted to set some context for why Pima Community College has really made a strategic decision to incorporate apprenticeship models in all work-based learning as a mainstay of our workforce development regimen rather than a one-off or a sideshow. We made this decision actually prior to COVID-19 and really look at what's happening now, like others have said, as an accelerant to our direction moving forward. So like many other education and workforce development organizations, we've been looking at the impact of Industry 4.0 on technology and learning overall, and really looking at what do we mean by the future of work, and what does education need to do in response to the changing nature of jobs. In Pima County specifically, but all across Arizona, we see the impact of declining birth rates that actually accelerated at the onset of the last Great Recession. And we'll be interested to see what happens with the downturn now that the economy is entering into a little bit of a decline pre-COVID. And as Jennifer said, hopefully we will emerge quickly. But nonetheless, we'll be continuing to watching those birth rates, because both in education and in workforce development, we've always seen the perpetual graduation rates that were always increasing, the larger numbers of high schoolers entering into the labor market and into education as being somehow destined to grow in perpetuity. But in fact, we are now seeing that the workforce is aging, birth rates are declining, and therefore we can no longer develop comprehensive workforce development strategies around youth only or emerging worker strategies. They're an important component, but we need to look forward to more work-based learning strategies that recognize the needs of working learners. And finally, on this slide, the nature of blended occupations. Career pathways are being replaced by career lattices. Occupations are being redefined by the onset of technology and the simple fact that many workers are staying in the workplace for longer periods of time. And entry-level positions are requiring a higher skill set, as was indicated by our partners at ASU. With respect to that, we've already seen at Pima Community College the virtualization of the classroom, as well as now the workplace. The blending of working and learning, the blending of sectors, industries, and occupations, and I already spoke about the career lattice framework, with multiple opportunities for working learners to enter and exit education as they can and will, considering economic conditions both locally and of course within their own family structure. And really what this has forced us to do at Pima is really move beyond the nomenclature of being either a non-traditional offering or a traditional educational offering, because we are now delivering workforce development in a post-traditional world. So we are now entered into post-traditional offerings. And COVID-19 and the situation that we are in has really just been an accelerant for all of these domains. So at Pima, we have really kind of two simple goals that define the ecosystem with respect to apprenticeship and work-based learning, given all of these factors. Goal number one is that every high school student in Pima County should have the opportunity to earn their college degree or certificate upon high school graduation, therefore saving time and money for them and their parents, earn an industry recognized credential upon high school graduation, and be enrolled in a quality work-based learning program either at high school or immediately afterwards. For the working learners in our community, every working learner in Pima County should have the opportunity to upskill, reskill, to a high skill, high wage demander career and be enrolled in a quality work-based learning program such as an apprenticeship. And given these two ecosystem goals, we have moved very fast in terms of developing a comprehensive apprenticeship regimen that is worthy for our community, since we are a comprehensive community college, and it was a very big missing piece of our regimen. And so that's why we've decided to move forward with a lot of the initiatives that Denise is now going to describe.
Next slide, please, Ian. Thank you. There we go. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead. Denise Kingman, Director of Employer Engagement and Career Services for Pima Community College. Again, thank you for having us. So I oversee in my role all work-based learning initiatives, which includes apprenticeship. And so I'm going to give you a little overview today of some of the grants that we have and ways that we are working with our local employers to upskill talent. And so we are going to start with, are you ready to build your workforce? Next slide, please, Ian. And as you've seen, this is the overview of what apprentices includes. So whether it is a registered model or now an IRAP, or an industry recognized model, they have all of the same components. So we will have employer, again, these are employer designed and driven. So that is the main point, that we work with employers to ensure that we are meeting their training needs for their workforce. Also included would be in a structured on-the-job learning, job-related education, or RTI, and that RTI can be credit, non-credit. We also award prior learning assessments, so we also award learning credit for prior learning. It must also include a wage progression, and at the end, of course, valued credentials that either you earn along the way, or as well as a national credential that you can earn at the end of a registered apprenticeship. Next, please. So we are very honored at Pima Community College that we have recently been awarded 2 Department of Labor apprenticeship grants. The first grant that we were awarded was, we are a subrecipient along with the American Association of Community Colleges, and we are part of their Expanding Community College Apprenticeship Grant. The emphasis on this particular grant is on construction, welding, and energy and utility sectors. However, we are looking to expand this to IT, emergency services, healthcare, as well as advanced manufacturing areas. What this funding allowed us to do was something we've been wanting to do, as Ian had mentioned, is we knew it's important. We know work-based learning is important. We know that training is important. But this particular grant funding allowed us to expand the registered apprenticeship landscape. And what it has afforded us to do is, in working in collaboration with Willie Higgins from the State Apprenticeship Office, we have become the first community college to actually become an intermediary sponsor in Arizona. So what this allows us to do is manage the program with the company. So sometimes companies are hesitant. We heard Jennifer mention earlier, because there's paperwork that goes along with the registration. There's managing the program. There is inputting the apprentice information. There's tracking, ensuring that there is a wage increase. All this that goes along the way, we are able to work with the company and help them do this. So we're able to manage it, to register the paperwork for them, actually input the information in the RAPID system for tracking, and again, manage all federal and state apprenticeship requirements. And again, these are customized on-the-job training to fit the needs of the particular employer. So this can be in the light of an incumbent worker, somebody they want to upskill. This could be somebody they want to tap into our Pima College talent pool. It might be something that they want to recruit from and see who is interested. So again, customized course lists and enrollment management that includes our credit course offerings for training, our non-credit offerings, as well as PLA. And this can be delivered in our hybrid models, online or in person. Next slide, please, Ian. Thank you. And the best part of these is, again, we say these are train to retain models. So apprenticeship has proven it's over 90% retention. That is how much the retention is for this. So that is something when I speak with employers and say, what is your retention like? So this is really, really high level retention for them. Again, it is customized to your needs. It improves productivity. apprenticeship has proven and shown that it increases employee loyalty to the company. It also is cost savings. So for every dollar spent on apprenticeship by employers, they receive an average of $1.47 back in increased productivity. Again, these earn and learn models are what we are looking to expand. And these earn and learn models have combined on-the-job training, related classroom instruction, and then the highest quality of industry standards. And these can, in addition to the sectors that I just noted that we currently work with within these grants, there's over 1,000 occupations that can be included in apprenticeship. And so we are really open to working with all employers. Next slide, please. The next grant that we were able to be awarded was IRAM. So it's Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Model in Manufacturing. And this is a really great model because it's a consortium model. Next slide, please, Ian. And in this model, we're from the Department of Labor, we were awarded a $4.23 million grant to innovate and expand apprenticeship. And really what we did is we are the lead, but we are in this partnership. And this just shows you how we're really looking to strengthen all of Arizona. And we're in a consortium model with Central Arizona College, Mesa Community College, Estrella Mountain, and Gateway, all of Maricopa. And this is really began with and leveraging the Advanced Arizona Technology Corridor, now known as the network, and the work that they were doing to really unify across the board, across the state, what we were doing together as far as in our automated industrial technology program, and being able to align course outcomes, course numbers, content, and to make it easier for employers and for students to be able to go into any one of the programs and have some continuity there. So with that opportunity, we applied for this grant. Pima College is the lead. We are working all together, and the goal is over 3,000 apprentices in the next 4 years. Our emphasis on this particular grant is in advanced manufacturing. We focus on automated industrial technology, AIT, or AKA, it's also known as mechatronics, you may have heard, and then machining. And this focuses on an unregistered model, which is competency-based, which now is IRAP. We do have guidelines that have come out from the Department of Labor for IRAPs, and then also registered apprenticeship. And we are also allowed to provide some supported services, which then help the apprentices be successful. So each one of the programs is able to provide any of these at any one of the colleges that I just named in our model. And we are all in this together. We meet weekly. We're doing training together, and we are all very much committed to this goal of really upskilling and retraining the workforce for Arizona. Next slide, please. And so now we've talked about the benefits of what it is for the employers, what do the employers get out of this, a well-trained workforce, but also what are the benefits for the apprentice? So the apprentice, why would they want to do this? One, you get guaranteed wage increase as you develop skills. In an apprentice model, you must have at least one wage increase. You can have up to 2 within a given year. They also earn a portable nationally recognized industry credential, whether those are industry credentials such as NIMS or the industry credential you earn at the end of a registered apprenticeship. Again, you can apply the education that you are learning. What you are learning in the classrooms with us, learning in a credit or non-credit world, you get to apply that right on the job. So it's not go to school first and then I get a job and I figure out how these two combine. You are doing these earn and learn right at the same time. Again, you can earn credit toward a college degree and be able to avoid large debt. There's various funding sources. So our programs are on the ETPL, so the Educational Training Provider list. We work closely with Arizona at Work. WIOA funds can go to support these. Veterans are great. They can use their GI Bills. Again, if there's financial aid, employers who have employee-sponsored tuition programs, they can use these to help pay and offset the training costs, as well with some of the grants, we might be able to have those opportunities to support that as well. And then again, you receive that guidance from a mentor, as we heard earlier. So you get to have somebody that is mentoring you, training you up. And so that's a real benefit for the apprentices as well. Next slide, please. And so at Pima College, we are committed to really building strong communities. We are committed to the apprenticeship venue, and we understand what it does, and we really see the importance of what the opportunities are for, again, both the apprentice and or the employer. We are committed, and we really are looking to expand that landscape and that ecosystem that Ian had shared as far as looking at from the youth to mature worker and what that continuum looks like. We are developed to establish and create quality pre-apprentice programs so that there are talent pools that are developed and the employers have a good talent pool to be able to interview from. It also is helping make that connection for people within our community that aren't sure what they want to do. They would be able to enter some type of pre-apprentice program, do a little bit of career exploration, get some training involved, figure out what the resources are and what the supports are. And we really are interested in being that connector for our community. Some of those include on-ramps with high school and dual enrollment opportunities. So we are really expanding our dual enrollment opportunities to the high school students so that they can start earning those credits, start doing some experiences, and then that gets them much quicker into the workforce and onto that on-ramp into an apprentice program. In addition to that, we recently applied for a youth apprenticeship readiness grant. So we're excited about that and hopeful that we would be awarded that. The youth apprenticeship grant focuses on youth age 16 to 24. And we did this in collaboration with our partners, with our JTED partners, with Job Corps, with Arizona at Work, in addition to our adult education and IBEST programs. So we are really looking to do that connection and be the connector for all the areas, and so that we really build that talent together. In addition, we are committed to upskilling of incumbent workers, employers that might, if we had heard, have committed employees who maybe need training in a different area. We are committed, especially now with COVID. We're going to know that we're going to see an onset of dislocated workers, and how can we help them get back to work in a really middle to high wage skilled environment. And this is where apprenticeship would come in again very well. It would fit where they can earn and learn at the same time, and maybe might need to get into a new direction, into a new career path. And again, looking at with a mature worker, whom we have a Back to Work 50+ program, and also those who are looking for second career options, that they may need to get some quick training. They want to stay within the workforce, but they want looking for something new, or they need to upgrade their skills because they know what maybe they have done in the past years met those job requirements, but they want to enter something new or be able to move up or move into a new area. This would be a great opportunity for them as well. And again, we offer short-term training. Any of these can be short-term training that we can do, again, in a credit and non-credit arena. So all of this, again, is a package that we are happy to work with any employer. We're happy and proud to work with our other college partners. And again, we're just committed to building stronger communities and a stronger state. And we hope to be able to do this collaboratively. Next slide. Next slide, Ian, please. Sorry. And there you go. If you're interested in contacting and working with us or finding out more, if we can help connect you to any one of our partners, we are more than happy to. And all of our connections, our email addresses are listed there, as well as you can follow us on Twitter. And we always post additional information and opportunities that are available to anyone out there on that piece. So thank you again for having us. And Kathleen, I'll hand it over to you at this point.
Great. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Raghu, and thank you, Jennifer. Well, hope you've heard about a wide range of models, about different job roles, about supporting both entry-level workers, reskilling incumbent workers, career changers, and all ages. And we are all hoping that there were some things that were of interest to you in the discussion. All of the people who presented today and the organizations that they're with will be planning follow-up information sessions, et cetera, so stay tuned for more information on all of those. And I think at this point, I would like to move to some of the questions that we got on this. Molly and I are going to tag team a little bit. So Molly, I'll take the first one, and then I'll turn it over to you. Jennifer, there was a question early on about COVID-19 and job hiring freezes, et cetera, and a question about could we really possibly have 12,000 IT-related and cyber-related job openings in Arizona. Can you take that for us?
Happy to, and a really good question. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so hopefully not everybody's getting that. So the 12,000 is based on a website called cyberseek.org, and I actually went back and double checked the website just to make sure that those numbers were still accurate. Obviously, they're a little bit of a lagging indicator or delayed in their compilation of that data. But anecdotally, we also spoke with many of our cybersecurity companies during a cybersecurity workforce collaborative last week. And they did share that many of them had gone to a hiring freeze as a result of COVID. Fortunately and unfortunately, I think those are probably temporary freezers. You know, a lot of companies indicated that they weren't looking to bring people on or onboard folks in this remote environment, and that was their biggest challenge. So again, I think those are probably going to be temporary, not long term. I was in another webinar last week on the economic development front, and one of the things that I did find really interesting as a result of COVID is we are seeing that obviously COVID is impacting certain industries over others, but there's been a more significant increase in advanced manufacturing and IT related opportunities. And so I think those are the industries that are probably going to come out of this the strongest. If you look at some of the earnings from some of our large tech companies, they're very successful. Sorry, I'm getting back. So they've been very, very successful, a lot of these tech related companies. So I think short term, yes, a lot of those companies are on hiring freezes, but long term, I think will rebound fairly quickly.
Thanks, Jennifer. Molly?
Excellent, thanks. So there was a question for, Lauren asked a question for Raghu, which he answered in the chat, so I'll just share that. And the question was, when will, for Raghu Santanam at ASU, when will interested students / members be able to apply to this program? And he said, we expect to start enrolling students in the fall, but we're ready to work with employer partners now to design the programs.
Great, thank you. One just came up in the chat that I think it could go to all, but I'm going to throw it to Pima Community College, and that is with the possibility that some companies might not make it through the economic downturn. Are you looking and counseling people on how to create employee-owned co-ops, bringing together experienced people with trained, certified, and apprenticeships to create new companies? So I'll put that to Pima to begin with on what kinds of work might be done, and then either Raghu or Jennifer, if you want to join in.
I think it's a pretty rich question. And I think that to meet all of those, it's about partnerships. So there are certain things within that question that are definitively the role of the community college. And then there are certain things that we would turn to some of our community partners, including our Chamber of Commerce, or in other aspects, perhaps the county or the city to take care of. But what I'm proud about in Pima County is that we have an ecosystem that does this. With respect to what we can do on the workforce side of it, we have partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce to be more specific, to work out a talent development and attraction strategy, particularly at the small and medium-sized companies who really need a lot of assistance in terms of how you post jobs, what skill sets are actually necessary. Are you still relying on that bachelor's degree to be the proxy for something for which an apprenticeship or a certificate or a degree can actually meet? And then what are we doing through a combination of work-based learning, tuition reimbursement assistance programs, as well as short-term training to build your workforce from within rather than the entry-exit strategy of the past. And then also with our Small Business Development Center being one of the many members of a network called Tucson Innovation Partnership, as well as a small business partnership in Pima County that can really assist companies through this difficult time. It's been heartbreaking. There are a lot of people who've spent many years building their businesses, and this is a really challenging time. But as a community, we're coming together, and we will get through this, and we'll be there for our community on the other side and all the way through it.
Great. Great answer, Ian. Jennifer or Raghu, do either of you want to add anything to that?
In our program, we haven't specifically planned for any type of employee co-op, but in ASU, we do have a Center for Entrepreneurship. And that's a place where there is a possibility that we can, and I have talked to them, and there is a possibility that if you do have a startup or a small company, it is possible to place our apprentices in those companies. And there is even a possibility of helping the apprentices with some of the service related costs if needed, although it's a really small amount. But certainly in terms of placing apprentices, there isn't any sort of limitation on whether it is a large company or an employee owned co-op or a startup.
Thank you, Raghu. Jennifer?
Sure. The only thing I would add is I think a lot of our education institutions are primed to do that work, whether it's the Center for Entrepreneurship at ASU. I know the Maricopa Community College District is also bringing their IT Institute online. So that's a great place for folks to start to collaborate and for some of these potential entrepreneurs to thrive and shine during this time.
Great, thanks. Molly, do you have another question?
I do. Yeah, I think it would be, and this is a question that came in offline, but I think it would be interesting to hear the perspective, maybe from the group, from the three of you, about apprenticeship programs being used to upskill current or retrain existing workers. So maybe Raghu, you could start us off with that question.
Yeah, and you know, in the past couple of months when I've talked to employer partners, this has come up quite a bit. I talked to a large bank that's really interested in providing career pathways. So what they call career ladders for entry-level positions, so that one, they can improve the retention of these employees, but two, provide them actually a career pathway where they're building that domain expertise within the organization and then bringing that expertise to other areas of the organization. So that's in fact a really important element of this apprenticeship model that is helping existing employees to move up their careers. And this can happen whether you are at the an associate's degree or a high school graduate that's working in a company. In fact, there is one interesting insurance company that I'm talking to where they want to build a data science practice. And in that data science practice, they want to bring their own employees who may have some statistics or a strong science background in their undergraduate degree program, but then put them through this apprenticeship to eventually make them data scientists. So there is different ways employers can think about this sort of upskilling or reskilling within their own organization. And the best thing about it is that you don't have to train them in the domain, so they have the domain knowledge that they can bring to their job from day one.
That's great. Jennifer, could you share with us your perspective on, what various programs you're seeing in terms of apprenticeships for upskilling in particular?
Yeah, so I think there's, I think we're going to see a lot more companies and even federal dollars going into both upskilling and reskilling individuals. I just look at our hospitality workers specifically that have been recently displaced, and the number of efforts that are currently underway to reskill those folks into different types of industries. And What I love about these Zoom calls and operating online is you can actually Google information while you're chatting. But somebody sent me a survey the other day from Strata Education Network, and it was talking about perceptions as it relates to job opportunities and job losses. And one thing that I think was really interesting in that survey is that IT workers specifically were still concerned, not as concerned as other industries about losing their jobs, but they felt like their industries were the most sustainable long term. So, you know, again, I think short term there's lots of concern across multiple industries, but longer term, I think IT related careers will sustain.
Great, thanks for sharing that perspective. Ian, share with us what you see with regard to upskilling or reskilling.
Sure, I'm going to turn to Denise on that one.
Thank you. Again, since these are really employer driven, we work with many employers who are looking for that. Like I said before, you might have an employee already that has been committed to you, but maybe that position we don't need at this point, or they need to get trained so that they can still be a valued team member. Definitely that's where apprenticeship comes in. And so you're already a committed employee, you have the OJT, we can be able to help get you that RTI. And again, that's at our that earn and learn model. It is something that even we're looking at in different areas with healthcare. You might be able to have different entry points, CNAs. How can we upskill them? You got in there, but how can you then move up into other healthcare positions and within that arena? And that is a discussion that we're having. Again, things with emergency services, we've seen maybe you get your EMT. How can we upskill you to the next level for paramedics, into firefighting, IT? So anywhere across the board, again, apprenticeships are open, and again, employer driven. It is what the employer is. We design them to meet their needs, and we help them fill in the gaps.
Great, thanks. Jennifer, you talked about Kudelski and the apprenticeship program that they have with high school students starting in the junior year. But a lot of companies are hesitant to employ in any form, internship or apprenticeship, anyone under the age of 18. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the workarounds people are considering or how that's working for companies? Also, before you answer, I'll just mention really quickly, Denise mentioned that Pima had applied for a youth apprenticeship grant, and Arizona actually has 3 grant submissions in for this next $42 million being allocated for youth apprenticeship. So fingers crossed that everybody gets one, and if not, that at least one of them does. So Jennifer, back to you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We can get those dollars into our state. So thanks, Kathleen, for bringing this question up. It's one that we actually hear quite often from employers, is just a lot of misperception around apprenticeship and around youth employment. The biggest one being, I can't have 18-year-olds in XYZ position. You know, if it's the IT or cybersecurity industry, I can't have 18-year-olds in my SOC. If it's the construction field, I can't have people out on the work site. And really, that truly is a misperception in many, many cases. And so what we're really encouraging employers to do is to think outside of the nets and bounds of having somebody that's specifically focused in a particular role, and look at high school interns or apprentices and give them just exposure to the industry and exposure to the field. So like Kudelski, have them working on a help desk and really understanding the types of calls that are coming in, not necessarily working in your SOC trying to navigate your cybersecurity issues. The other thing is there's, I think, a lot of concern just around liability of hiring high school students, and there are so many workarounds available to help with that hiring process. So for example, Boys and Girls Club, they've actually launched a program called Youth Force that is really helping employers navigate that process. They basically will take on the students as as their employees, and you basically pay a stipend to Boys and Girls Club to facilitate that process. So again, avoiding liability. The high schools themselves also have a number of programs available, especially with CTE related programs for students, where the high school will take on a lot of that liability. So I would encourage all of our employers across the board to really look past a lot of those misperceptions and look for the truth behind hiring and employing you.
Molly, do you have another one?
If I could just add, if that real quick, Kathleen.
Please.
For the submission in Pima County in partnership with Arizona at Work, Pima County and Pima JTED, we were actually very encouraged and surprised about the number of commitments for youth apprenticeships that we received from our employer partners for that, both in terms of perhaps a bellwether for a quick return to economic recovery, but also that we had seen that attitude shifting towards youth employment, at least with those employers with whom we partnered, and it was an encouraging sign. I just wanted to put that out there.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Ian. Molly?
Yeah, thanks. We've got a couple of questions around online, whether it's classroom training being replaced by, online training, or whether it's actually like the apprenticeship work being, how can that get done given that a lot of people are working from home? Have you all been, are employers or education providers asking those questions? Are potential apprentices asking those questions in terms of, in a COVID-19 world, how can we still get this kind of training? And I'd love to ask that of Raghu first.
Hey, thanks, Molly, for that question. Yeah, this is, in fact, when we had our first meeting with the Department of Labor with all the grantees, this is a question that came up from other grantees as well, as to whether you can have an apprenticeship completely done remotely. And although Department of Labor said they will come up with a formal sort of an instruction on what that means, I would think that's a distinct possibility, especially in the IT career space. I mean, as you've heard, Facebook, Google, and others are now saying that their employees may permanently work from home. And I think Twitter also announced that recently. And in areas like cybersecurity or being a programmer analyst, it's fairly easy to do that, and we expect that trend to happen. The flip side of it is in the education side, which is how online education actually opens up more possibilities for apprentices to get this training in a flexible way, that now they're not constrained. Think about some of these apprentices who have family and kids, and they have to look after them. And if they have to go juggle work and then actually go to college, that's a lot to ask about, of them. And when you provide this sort of an online option for the classroom training, it takes away that coordination complexity from these apprentices and make these apprenticeships more accessible to a larger group of employees around.
Thank you, Raghu. Jennifer or Ian or Denise, any other comments on that one before we go to our last question?
I think that covered it well.
So the only thing I would add to that is I think we were pleasantly surprised how easily the SRP apprentices shifted to a remote environment. Working with Apprenti nationally, they're working with hundreds of apprentices across the country, and they have been very firm in their model that those students or the classes need to be taught online, and that this apprentices need to be in a live environment. And so shifting to this virtual environment was forced. So a lot of those the apprentices have been very, very successful in that transition, which I think just kind of we're all in this forced environment, right? And most people have found it to be much smoother than they probably anticipated.
Thanks, Jennifer. I would add to that one other thing. There's a youth apprenticeship program with high school students in Colorado. They have about 400 students in that program, and about 60% of them during COVID are actually working remotely. So, you know, companies are figuring out how to do that. Along those same lines, companies are moving this summer in many cases to their summer internship programs online, remotely. And with the Tech Council and the Chamber, we're going to actually build on that opportunity to try to learn the upsides as well as the downsides to that and what opportunities that might present in the future. The last question, to be respectful of everyone's time, is, and I'll throw this out to anyone, but what about current graduates, even those with who have graduated with advanced degrees, MBAs, et cetera? What do you think about the job opportunities for them right now during the freezes and during COVID-19? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And again, I think those more than advanced students, I would say that at the undergraduate level, they would qualify for these apprenticeships. In fact, in our Cognizant Train to Hire program, all of them had an undergraduate degree, not necessarily from an IT domain. So that's I think the benefit of an apprenticeship type approach, where you may have been in a non-STEM degree program and maybe you've been underemployed or you want to switch simply because now you have, sort of taken an interest in IT domain. You can do that through an apprenticeship program. So they provides that opportunity to switch careers for not just the recent graduates, but also those who are currently employed and underemployed.
Thank you, Raghu. Anyone else before I turn it back to Steve?
At the community college level, we would agree. We were already amazed at how many individuals would come to us with bachelor's degrees in certain fields that would switch over to a technical field or to an IT field just to get a certificate or a degree from Pima to enter into a new career pathway altogether. The downside, of course, is that people have lost their jobs. The upside is a crisis like this will validate the efficacy of educational programs across the board. And it's an opportunity for us to help people pivot to those that are economic drivers in our community.
Thanks. Okay. Steve, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out.
Let me unmute myself. Well, first of all, thank you to Molly and Kathleen for doing a spectacular job of moderating today's session. I also want to thank all three presenters who did a spectacular job. Lots of really valuable content was provided today. And one of the things to note is that this session was recorded, and Lee Goldstein again will send out an email to everyone who attended today with a copy of the video. So if you missed something or didn't get the notes, you'll be able to replay it later over the weekend while you're all enjoying the nicer weather that we're having. I also wanted to encourage anyone who's interested in knowing more about Arizona Tech Council events, again, to go to our website, aztechcouncil.org. Under events, you'll find a list of all the upcoming virtual events, and later in the year, physical face-to-face events again. So thank you also the audience for joining us today. Great to get such a robust crowd for this topic. So must be the spectacular moderators and speakers we had in the lineup. So again, thank you all for being here and have a great holiday weekend.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.